Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss the first chapter of first year biology. It's objective, and the chapter name is Introduction. Introduction of Biology. The study of distribution of animals in the nature is called zoogeography. Zoo means animals, and geography is the distribution. So zoogeography is the branch in which we study how animals are distributed in various parts of earth. The study of internal structure is known as anatomy. Morphology is the study of outer structure, and histology is the microscopic study of the tissues. Physiology is the study of the body functions. A structure normally composed of several tissue types that form a functional unit is called organ. Organ system is a collection of organs. Organelle, it is made of small cells, and the last option is the tissues. Tissue is made up of cells. So the correct option is the option C. The number of species identified so far is 2.5 million species of our different organisms are identified in the present era. A technique that consists of isolating the normal gene and inserting it into the host through the bone marrow is known as gene therapy. Actually, this is the technique in which normal genes are introduced into the bone marrow, and as all of you people know that red blood cells are formed before their birth in the bone marrow, and then this circulate into the whole body. So, if you introduce a new or healthy gene in the bone marrow, then automatically it will transfer into the whole body. Radiotherapy is the treatment of the cancerous cells through short radio waves. Chemotherapy is the treatment of the cancerous cells through the anti-cancer chemicals. And cloning is a process in which desirable organisms with the desirable characteristics are produced. It is actually a type of asexual reproduction. Next is the branch of biology which deals with the study of ancestral history of living organisms is called as evolution. In evolution, we will study how animals evolved from each other, or you can say there is a record of different lineages of animals in the given branch that is known as the evolution. Embryology is the study of development of the embryo. Actually, fossils is the study of the paleontology is the study of fossils, and the tissue study is known as the histology, while internal gross structure is known as anatomy. So, how zygote is developed into whole organism. This process is known as development, and it is studied under the branch that is known as the embryology. Genetically engineered vaccine is not available for HAV is the hepatitis A virus, HBV is the hepatitis B virus, HCV is the hepatitis C virus, and HDV is the hepatitis delta virus. Actually, hepatitis delta virus or D virus require hepatitis B virus for its replication or you can say its infestation, or a vaccine is not available for HCV. In human body, the amount of the phosphorus is the 1%. Mammal became dominant in the Cenozoic period. Cenozoic period is the most recent period in the in the geological time period. Radiotherapy is used for the cancer. In this technique, the short radio waves they are thrown on the affected part, and then due to these short radio waves, affected cells are killed. The study of microorganisms includes bacteria, viruses, protozoans, microscopic algae, and the fungus is known as the microbiology. In parasitology, you will study the parasites. Molecular biology, in this branch, you will study the molecules which are the functional or the constitutional units of the cell. And in biotechnology you will study the microorganisms used for the good of the mankind. The number and the variety, correct spelling are the variety of species in a place is called community. Actually, population is the collection of same species, while in case of community, various species inhabiting the same place. Pasteurization is widely used for the preservation of the milk products. A large regional community, primarily determined by the climate, is known as biome. The muscles of stomach or is of which type? Actually, muscle has stomach has smooth muscle. This is not the correct one. Skeletal muscle. Stomach has smooth muscles. Defective genes can be repaired by the gene therapy. In the chemotherapy, cancer cells are killed by using anti-cancerous chemicals, and in the radiotherapy, short wavelength radio waves are used for the treatment of the cancer. And the physiotherapy, this technique or this branch or this actually this is the branch. These physiotherapists use various radio waves to various radio waves or techniques to treat the stiffness of the muscles and the pain in the bones, etc. etc. Fungi, algae, protozoa, and various prokaryotes are 9%. The number of species of insects is 53.1%. The number of species is insects have worldwide distribution, and the number of species is more than any other um organisms. The reasoning from the general to the specific is known as the deductive reasoning. The technique used for the preservation of the milk and the milk products is called as the pasteurization. Which of the following is not at the attribute or the characteristic of the population? Population density is actually the characteristic of the population. Or you can say the number of organisms in a population. Gene frequency, and definitely if organisms are present, genes are present, and different genes have different frequencies. Gene flow, immigration, and immigration also happen in a population, while gene structure is basically the attribute of the genetics. This is not studied in population. Actually, this is studied in population too, but this is a micro character, or you can't include it in population. A group of living organisms of same species located in the same place at the same time is known as population. The most recent era is the Cenozoic Era. Use of living organism systems or processes in manufacturing and service industry is studied by the branch which is known as the biotechnology. A group of similar cells that perform the similar function is known as the tissues. The lowest possible percentage of bioelements in the man among the following is manganese. This is included in trace elements. Which one of the following is not a viral disease? Tetanus is not a viral disease. Actually, this is caused by the bacterium Clostridium tetani. The branch of biology which deals with the study of social behavior and communal life of the human being is known as the social biology. The amount of the sodium, N is the symbol of the sodium, by the weight in the human body is 0.15%. The percentage of the potassium in the human body is 0.35%. One of the following is a micromolecule. Starch, protein, cellulose, they are included in the macromolecules. So the rest is option is the glucose, that is included in micromolecule due to its lower molecular weight as compared to the cellulose, protein, and the starch. The unit of the life is the cell. Population of different species living in the same habitat form a community. Scientist who first developed the technique of the vaccination in 1795 was the Edward Jenner, and Louis Pasteur was the scientist who developed the process of uh, uh, who developed actually the antibiotics. Robert Brown and Robert Koch, they were the initial scientists who were involved in the discovery of the microscope and discovery of the cell. The microscopic study of the tissues is known as the histology. A community together with its non-living surrounding is known as the ecosystem. In human body, amount of the oxygen is 65%. Muscle tissue is specialized for the contraction. Okay, conduction, secretion, and these are the characteristics of the nerves too. And conduction is specifically the characteristic of the nerve, and excretion is the characteristic of the um, kidney. Study of function of different parts of the organism. Physiology is the branch in which we study how different parts functions. Degradation of environmental pollutants by the living organisms is known as bioremediation. Environmental pollutants are also non-living things because this include the various toxic and or gases, etc. A biome is a large regional community primarily determined by the climate. In human body, amount of the carbon is the 18%. In cities, particularly, the exhaust from the automobiles is enormously adding dash into the atmosphere. That is the lead. Living substance of the living thing is the protoplasm. Protoplasm is actually the collection of nucleoplasm and the cytoplasm. So this is the living structure of the living cell. The percentage of the hydrogen present in the human body is 10%. The branch of the biology which deals with the structure of organism, the cells, their organelle at the molecular level is known as molecular biology. The bioelements which accounts 18% of the total mass in the human body is the carbon. In human, 99% of the body mass is made up of the six bioelements, and these bioelements include the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, and the phosphorus. Cretaceous, Jurassic, and the Triassic periods are the era of the Mesozoic period. Histology is the study of the tissues. Biology is short of laws because of the elusive nature of the life. Less falsification, large population of human, or the less identification. Important factor in the modern genetics is the plasmid. Plasmid is actually the circular DNA which is present in the bacterium, and these are used for introducing useful genes into from one organisms to another. A condition of high blood pressure is known as a hypertension. Hemorrhage is known as the breakdown of the vessels and the release of the blood. Arteriosclerosis is actually the accumulation of the plaque in the blood vessels, and the hypotension is the lessened blood pressure. The tentative explanation of the observation is known as hypothesis. In 1997, scientists in the Scotland succeeded in cloning a sheep. The technology used for achieving eugenic aims. यूजेनिक का मतलब होता है अपनी मर्जी के बेहतरीन नस्ल के जानवरों को पैदा करना, और इसमें क्लोनिंग को यूज़ करते हैं. केमोथेरेपी, रेडियोथेरेपी तो कैंसरस सेल्स के लिए यूज़ होते हैं. जीन थेरेपी में जीन्स इंट्रोड्यूस कराए जाते हैं. The HIV virus causes immunodeficiency virus. It causes AIDS. AIDS means acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Actually, AIDS is not a single disease. In this disease, immunity is disturbed, and if immunity is disturbed, person suffering from the even flu can't survive from this disease, because immunity is the process or the it is the process or which is helpful in protecting the body from external infections. In human gene therapy, the normal genes are inserted into the host through the bone marrow cells, and if it attack walnut tree is being controlled biologically by the wasp. The first ever clone was prepared in 1977 in the Scotland. The percentage of the calcium in the human body is 2%. Dash is employed in the treatment of the cancer, radiotherapy, and the chemotherapy. Which one is a trace element? Zinc. The branch of biology which deals with the study of environmental relations of organisms is known as ecology. Which one of these is a macromolecule? Starch is a macromolecule. Now we are moving toward the short answers. Define physiology. Physiology is actually the study of function. Biochemistry is the study of chemical components. You know that living organisms are made up of proteins, carbohydrates, and the lipids. These are made up of various atoms, carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, and in a similar way, the substitution of various atoms is the reason for producing new compounds necessary for the life. They gives the four characteristics of the living organism. They are highly organized, they have complex structure, they are made up of more than one cells, and they have genetic programs. Definitely genes are present or DNA is present in the nucleus. Differentiate between the biopesticides and the biological control. In biopesticides, different living organisms are used to for the extraction of toxicants or the chemicals which can be used against the pests. While in biological control, actually living organisms are used against the pest. In biopesticides, chemicals derived from the living organisms used against the pests. Suggest how environmental pollution can be reduced. It can be reduced by the degradation or the removal of the environmental pollutants or the toxicants by the living organism, and this is known as bioremediation. Define bioremediation and the endangered species. Bioremediation was discussed in the previous question. While endangered species are those species that are actually not extinct, they are present but in very less number, or you can say that they are near to extinction. It's mean that they are in the danger to uh, to exhaust. Differentiate between the bioremediation and the biological control. Bioremediation is the use of living organisms to degrade non-living organisms or the toxicants from the environment, and in this biological control, living organisms are used against the living organisms. Here you can see that heavy metals will be removed by the using algae. Algae is the living organism, and the aphids can be controlled by using the wasps in biological control. What are the bioelements? Give their proportion in the human body. Bioelements, these are elements which form the body of the living organism. Six bioelements basically form the human body. Oxygen is the 65%, carbon is the 18%, hydrogen is the 10%, nitrogen is the 3%, calcium is the 2%, and phosphorus is the 1%. Define microbiology and the biotechnology. In microbiology, where organisms which cannot be seen with the naked eye, they are studied various bacteria, viruses, protozoans, algae, and the fungus. They are included in this branch. While biotechnology, it is a branch of biology that deals with the study of use of living organisms. For example, yeast is used in the fermentation process for the many, and these living organisms are used for the good of mankind or the human. Define zoogeography and the parasitology. In zoogeography, distribution of animals on the earth is studied, and the parasitology in this branch, how organisms uh, are actually which organisms are uh, the parasites. You can say that these organisms damage the living organism, other living organisms, their structure, their mode of reproduction, how they are transferred from one individual to another, and the host guest relationship. Structure Study of structure is necessary, because without knowing the structure, we don't know, we are not able to form any chemical against the parasites, or we don't know how they transfer from one organism to another, or how they interact with their or how they interact with the host. What are the disadvantages of pesticides? Definitely, they increases the environmental pollution. Suppose if you spray some chemical, maybe uh, permethrin on any crop, and you will eat fruits from these crops. There is a small proportion of chemicals in these plants too, which is not lethal for the human because we are larger organisms, but it causes diseases in the body. Write the names of the four eras of the geological time period: Proterozoic, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and the Cenozoic. Freshwater biology. In this branch, we will study the organisms of the freshwater and the physical and the chemical parameters of the freshwater, heat, temperature, pH. These are the physical and the chemical parameters. In the marine biology, life in the sea and ocean is studied as well as their physical and chemical parameters too. Define ecology and histology. Ecology is a branch in which the relationship between the organism and its environment is studied. How organism is lived in its environment. Is it a parasite, or it is useful for other organism, or it is or it is responsible for causing any damage to the environment. Histology is the microscopic study of the living tissues. Why is there need to control the environmental pollution? This is the basic problem need to be addressed. If we do not address the environmental pollution, it causes the lethal or severe effects in the environment, just like uh, we are suffering from fog. We are suffering from the problem of the fog in Lahore from last few years. This is the result, or this is the fruit of the environmental pollution, and it causes respiratory disorders in people. So environmental pollution is the primary um, problem to be addressed. Define biodiversity, give the percentage of different groups of organisms. Biodiversity, bio means living, diversity means distribution, number and the variety of species in a place. Insects are 53.1%, vascular plants in which xylem and phloem is present. These are 17.6%. Animals, other animals are 19.9%. Fungus, algae, and protozoan, they are 9.4%. Parasitology is the branch in which we study the parasites. Define cloning. Cloning is the technique used for achieving eugenic aims. Actually the production of the organisms with the desirable characteristics. If you need more meat, more milk from the animals, you will try to develop the organism with these characteristics. Advantages of cloning. First point is not right. Cloning is not a easy process. However, you can get animals with the desirable characteristics through the process of cloning. What are micro and macromolecules? Micromolecules with the less molecular weight, for example, carbon dioxide and hydrogen. Macromolecules with a high molecular weight, for example, starch and protein. What are pesticides? These are the chemicals used to kill the pest. Pest means every living organism which is harmful for human, or in other words you can say that which can compete with the human for food, shelter, or space. So insects, rodents, or other things, insects, rodents, spiders, which can compete with the human or larger animals, they are all included in the pest. Effects of using pesticides. Definitely pesticides are the toxic agents. These enhances the toxicity in the environment. and their toxicity is the main reason of the environmental pollution. Insects become resistant due to the effects of the pesticide. Resistant, लेकिन आप किसी को मुसलसल मार पीट रहे हैं, थोड़ी देर बाद वो रेजिस्टेंस हो जाएगा उस मार पीट के। इसी तरह इंसेक्ट्स जो हैं वो भी थोड़ी देर बाद उस केमिकल के रेजिस्टेंट हो जाएंगे। What is a pasteurization? Pasteurization is the heating process that destroy the bacteria in the fluid and lower the number of overall bacteria in the fluid. According to the British standards, uh, temperature between the 5 degrees centigrade and 65 degrees centigrade is the living zone. If you want to preserve your food, you need either to decrease the temperature from 5 degrees centigrade or either to increase the temperature from 65 degrees centigrade. Significance of the pasteurization: it is used for the preservation of the milk and the milk products. Differentiate between organs and the organelle and the organ system. Organelles are made up of macro and micro molecules. Various organelles are present in the cell, for example, ribosomes. In the similar way, organs are formed by the accumulation of the tissues, actually the tissues which are performing the specific function. Um, and the stomach is the example of the tissue. What are the four ways to form the hypothesis? Deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, aesthetic preferences. A deductive reasoning moves from general to the specific. Inductive reasoning moves from specific to the general. Aesthetic preference include the beauty purpose and the intuition or imagination. Intuition कहते हैं व्यायाम को, imagination कहते हैं किसी चीज़ को आप suppose कर लेते हैं. Define population, describe its attributes. Population is the collection of the same species, members of the same species inhabiting the same area. Attributes of the population: gene frequency, gene flow, age distribution, population density, and the population pressure. What is the significance of the study of the fossils? आप फॉसिल से जो है प्रीवियस एनवायरनमेंट प्रीवियस इराज के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन ले लेते हैं, प्लस उस टाइम का इन्वायरमेंट कैसा था, क्लाइमेट कैसा था, इसके बारे में भी आपको इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाती है. दिस इज द रेपुटेशन ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. What is the biological control of the pest? Biological control of pest में living organisms को यूज़ किया जाता है for destroying living organisms. लेकिन अगर आप केमिकल्स यूज़ कर रहे हैं तो केमिकल्स में तो रेजिस्टेंस पैदा कर देंगे, दूसरा टॉक्सिसिटी पैदा कर देते हैं. तो इसमें एग्जांपल आपको दिए हुए एफिड वो इंसेक्ट्स हैं जो सैप सकिंग करते हैं. वॉलनट अखरोट के दरख्त में से कैसे कंट्रोल किया गया, वास्प को यूज़ करके. इवन बैक्टीरिया को भी बायोपेस्टिसाइड्स के तौर पे यूज़ किया जाता है. व्हाट इज़ बायोम? इट इज़ अ लार्ज रीजनल कम्युनिटी डिटरमाइंड बाय द क्लाइमेट. देखिए एक जगह की कम्युनिटी जो है उसे कौन डिटरमिन करता है? उसे वहाँ का क्लाइमेट डिटरमिन करता है. क्लाइमेट जो होता है एक लंबे टाइम तक वहाँ की मौसमी हालात, अगर मौसमी हालात सर्द हैं तो वहाँ पे ऐसे ऑर्गेनिजम्स रह सकेंगे जो सर्द मौसम को बर्दाश्त कर सकते हैं. उसके बाद है हाउ कैन वी डिटरमिन द एज ऑफ रॉक्स. एज ऑफ रॉक्स डिटरमिन करने के लिए हम लोग डिफरेंट रेडियो आइसोटोप्स यूज़ करते हैं. इसके लिए डिफरेंट टेक्निक्स हैं. कार्बन डेटिंग है, एफिशिएंट डेटिंग है, यूरेनियम डेटिंग है. बेसिकली रेडियो आइसोटोप्स दे आर प्रेजेंट इन द फॉसिल्स. अब उनकी एक स्पेसिफिक लाइफ होती है जिसे कहते हैं हाफ लाइफ. उसके बाद वो डिग्रेड होकर दूसरे एलिमेंट्स में कन्वर्ट हो जाते होते हैं. तो हम चेक करते हैं कि कौन सा एलिमेंट मौजूद है. अगर तो वहाँ पे उसके डिग्रेडेशन प्रोडक्ट्स हो तो हमें पता चल जाता है कि उससे हम चेक कर लेते हैं, कंपेयर कर लेते हैं कि हाँ या जो फॉसिल है वो कितने साल पुराना होगा. हाउ थ्योरी इज़ डिफरेंट फ्रॉम लॉ. लेकिन थ्योरी को आप फर्दर टेस्ट कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जो लॉ है वो यूनिफॉर्म फैक्ट होता है नेचर का. उसके ऊपर इतनी ज़्यादा एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन हो चुकी होती है कि फिर वो कहीं भी रॉन्ग प्रूफ नहीं होता और फिर उसको आप दोबारा जो है चेंज नहीं कर सकते. रेडियोथेरेपी ये जो है ये यूज़ करते हैं ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ कैंसरस सेल्स के। जीन थेरेपी जो है डिफेक्टिव जीन्स को रिपेयर करने के लिए यूज़ होती है। इसमें नॉर्मल जीन को किसी भी ऑर्गेनिज्म से आइसोलेट करते हैं और उसे और उस ऑर्गेनिज्म में इंट्रोड्यूस करा देते हैं जिसके पास डिफेक्टिव जीन्स होते हैं। व्हाट इज़ हाइड्रोपोनिक कल्चर टेक्निक? हाइड्रोपोनिक कल्चर टेक्निक में देखिए सॉइल एक बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स मीडिया है। आपने कभी भी एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन करना हो आप सॉइल में नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि सॉइल में डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स मौजूद हैं और मूवमेंट है, साइकिल चल रहा है एलिमेंट्स का, ठीक है। तो आप वाटर के अंदर प्लांट्स को ग्रो कराते हैं, एरेटेड वाटर यानी ऑक्सीजन का ऑक्सीजनेटेड वाटर, उसमें आप तमाम एलिमेंट्स भी डाल देते हैं जो एक प्लांट को ग्रो करने के लिए यूज़ होते हैं। और इस टेक्निक को एस्ट्रोनॉट्स वगैरह यूज़ करते हैं। वैक्सीनेशन में आप डेड जो ऑर्गेनिजम्स होते हैं उनको इंट्रोड्यूस करा देते हैं लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स में, जिसकी वजह से एंटीबॉडीज़ बॉडी में प्रोड्यूस हो जाती हैं। एंटीबॉडीज़ को आप सपोज करें कि दीज आर द आर्मी ऑफ योर बॉडी। अब जो जितनी आर्मी स्ट्रांग होगी उतना बॉडी का इम्यून सिस्टम स्ट्रांग होगा। इंटीग्रेटेड डिजीज मैनेजमेंट, दिस इज द कलेक्शन of the techniques uh, used for uh, actually these techniques used for the cure of the any disease। जैसे आजकल डेंगू का होता है, ये कोरोना वायरस का होता है। जितनी भी टेक्निक्स आपके पास अवेलेबल हैं आप उनको यूज़ करने के लिए, प्लस आप पब्लिक अवेयरनेस जो है वो डेवलप करते हैं ताकि जो है डिजीज़ को जल्द से जल्द कंट्रोल किया जा सके। मोनोसेकेराइड्स वो कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स हैं जिनमें 3 से 7 कार्बन नंबर होगा, इनको ट्रायोसिस कहते हैं 3 नंबर कार्बन वाले को। टेट्रोसिस 4C, पेंटोसिस 5C, हेक्सोसिस 6C, हेप्टोसिस 7C। जनरल फार्मूला जो कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स मोनोसेकेराइड्स का वो CH2O है। मोस्ट कॉमन जो मोनोसेकेराइड्स हैं वो हेक्सोसिस यानी 6 कार्बन वाले और पेंटोसिस 5 कार्बन वाले हैं। ग्लाइसाइल एलानिन कैसे बनता है? amino acid glycine combines with the amino acid alanine. There are 3 types of RNAs: transfer RNA, messenger RNA, and the ribosomal RNA. What is the role of the biology in food preservation? Various techniques are involved in the food preservation। इसमें आपने जैसे पास्चराइजेशन वगैरह की टेक्निक डेवलप की, लुइस पास्चर ने टू प्रिजर्व द फूड टू प्रिजर्व द मिल्क प्रोडक्ट्स। इस तरह से रोल ऑफ बायोलॉजी डिजीज कंट्रोल में क्या, इंटीग्रेटेड पेस्ट मैनेजमेंट इज यूज्ड टू कंट्रोल the various diseases, various chemicals are discovered against the diseases, and as well as public awareness is in public awareness is necessary to control the disease. Differentiate between anatomy and morphology. Anatomy is the internal structure of the organisms and morphology is the external structure of the organisms. Okay, this is the completion of the topic. Thank you.